Hey there, welcome to episode 55 of the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program. I am your host, Managing Director of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, Dan Hugo, recording this in the morning on Friday, March 8th, 2024. Yes, my voice is enjoying whatever's in the air. My allergies have been in full force for the past few days. It has an effect on my voice. That's the way it is. Today we're talking about spring cleaning. It is springtime upon us. There are a few administrative items and some much needed maintenance as we tackle projects in a new way. If you've been listening every week to our audio program episodes, none of this will be too surprising, but we'll just synchronize with the new season upon us coming soon. See where we are. As usual, our links, I only have two. The usual two to our homepage, innovateforvegas.org, which we will be talking about, and our GitHub organization, github.com/innovateforvegas. So innovateforvegas.org, Innovate for Vegas on GitHub. There are some other links. We have a Discord server, some other things going away. We have a Mastodon account on Fostodon. You can find that link on our GitHub page. And, anyway, let's get to it and we'll get to that. So spring is here, almost. We are about 2 years into our effort. We had our first sort of inaugural reboot hackathon around this time 2 years ago. Our open transit project, still a project in search of collaboration and contribution of creative work. There's a lot of specification there in the form of user stories. It's definitely something we need to pursue. Still on deck. None of our projects, by the way, really end or go away. So they can sit. We don't have a release schedule per se. We are not a software startup. We're not looking for investment to release our MVP, things like this. But anyway, so our reboot of the Code for Vegas Foundation was just about 2 years ago. We did form our Nevada nonprofit in June 2022, and then we got our 501c3 determination from the IRS in October of 2022. I am told by the great and always supportive Don Jacobson that we have an IRS return address on an envelope. Hopefully this is our affirmation letter for our name change. The process was supposed to take 2 months. So we, yes, we did get our determination in October of 2022. In October of 2023, we officially changed our name in the state to the Innovate for Vegas Foundation. So within the state of Nevada, we are Innovate for Vegas Foundation. With the IRS, we have the same EIN, Employer Identification Number. So for tax, or in our case, tax exempt purposes, for the purposes of identifying us as a real and determined tax exempt charity. Nonprofit is a state designation. Nothing has really changed. The one word name change is consequential, but not earth shattering. But once we get our affirmation letter, we can actually update everything with our various benefactors. We get a GitHub team account as a nonprofit charity. We get it for free, which is nice. Our Google Workspace is presently gratis, but is for the Code for Vegas Foundation. So we'll change our name there. We have a few other free accounts with services like Canva and Stripe. We have a reduced fee structure for our charity fundraising, which no one has taken advantage of as yet. Hint, hint. So as we move forward, we can be more clear, and there won't be any explanation about how a donation would appear to be for Code for Vegas Foundation, even though we are Innovate for Vegas Foundation. So just another checkbox to take off the list. Assuming the affirmation letter is here today, I will hope it is not some advice that I did the wrong thing. The instructions are fairly clear, but it is the IRS. The IRS does have a database of tax-exempt organizations, As of today, we are still listed as Code for Vegas, so we'll see how things go. All of this is provided on our in our GitHub organization. There's a timeline of our entity history, so our corporation formation, our IRS public charity determination, our name change, etc. So that'll be updated. So yeah, we're trying to be transparent. It's not a huge deal, but dotting the I's, crossing the T's, all that. Thinking about rebooting our monthly hackathon meetups as the summer fast approaches. So we'll have to think about that. We'll talk about that more towards the end of this episode. First things, I did a whole episode a couple of weeks ago. Our board member, Sean Looker, who was the initial co-founder of the Code for Vegas, not Code for Vegas Foundation, Code for Vegas organization about 10 years ago as part of the Code for America. I think it was before they even had brigades, so it was just part of Code for America. So Sean Looker and I believe it was Ryan Quinn were the co-founders and co-captains. They kind of got us here, so we rebooted. Sean immediately stepped up to be supportive in any way, joined the board, had a few useful conversations about the hows, the whats, the wheres, the whos, etc. So Sean does not live in Nevada. He has family and work and so on. So he is stepping down from our board after not trivial amounts of effort, beginning 10 years ago to get us where we are now. So thanks to Sean for that. We'll make him our director emeritus. And we have a couple of people we're talking to about filling at least one board seat. Mary Norris in Fresno, in the Fresno area, she's already part of Open Fresno and also works with Code for Sacramento, which will eventually be, I believe, Open Sacramento. Mary is also on our board. She has worked very closely with the Code for America, top level central planning organization. So when we first started talking about our outreach efforts, I've been talking to Mary since we formed. Mary was actually the person that when you first reached out to Code for America, like, hey, I want to form or reboot a brigade, they would, before anything else, say, do you know Mary Norris? So she knows everybody knows Mary. So Mary's on our board. We will reach out to some people in similar interest areas somewhere around the country that we hope to find at least one or possibly up to 3 board members. So one to take Sean's seat, not replace, but there will be an empty chair. Take that chair, and then maybe 1 or 2 more in different locations. Part of our overarching strategy is to enable civic volunteerism for community elevation projects and so on in other places to fill in for what was, as of December 31st, 2023, the end of the Code for America Brigade program. So something Mary and I were talking about probably 6 to 9 months ago was enabling brigades to do what we did, which was to form or reform as an independent, standalone charitable organization rather than being attached to a central planning entity such as Code for America. So as we move forward and as the rest of the brigades, former brigades, move forward, there are various groups in similar circumstance that they may no longer have the support of the central planning organization. So some of the resources that go along with being a 501c3 public charity, or in their case, a fiscally sponsored charity organization, you don't get so much free stuff. You're responsible for your own expenses, tax reporting to the IRS, which is minimal, and so on. So it's not that hard, but it isn't clear where different organizations are going to go moving forward. But the fun fact is there are civic volunteers around the country who are interested in committing time and energy and creative work to open source civic volunteer projects. So we have those. We here in Vegas do not have so many civic volunteers who are interested in participating. Here I have noticed that people tend to be waiting for, like, show me something that I can be involved with, not I'm going to be part of creating the thing that I can be involved with. So there's an early adopter hill to climb, so to speak. So my notion for the last 6 to 9 months was, if there are groups of volunteers that are trying to figure out what to do next, some will move on. There may be a small group of remaining true believers like myself, and these people are scattered around the country trying to figure out where to go next, what to do with their existing projects and so on. So why not gather those people together remotely and collaborate across localities so that we can work on civic volunteer projects to benefit our own communities, localities. We have the mindset, we have the motivation, we have the background. We just don't have 3, 5, 10, 20, 50 people sitting in a room to work on projects. Those people, maybe not 50, but those people are in rooms around the country. And that's what video conferencing is for. So Mary and I are reaching out to people who would like to pursue that idea and help with some outreach and getting that message and discussions and cooperative infrastructure. Part of the challenge would be, you don't have to join our organization. We don't have to join your organization. We can collaborate on projects just like most open source projects function. So it's not too complicated, really, but it is a messaging question. So getting the word out. And it's certainly been an interesting time as the Brigade program came to an end, as it was sunset, as they say. So these are people who have been, I'll just say comfortable. I just mean, they've had a configuration, a set of circumstances that were enabling them to pursue their projects. And that has changed. So there may be a denouement, a refractory period, and then we can see where they want to go next and if they would like to collaborate. Our directors, as I said, need to get the word out. Above all, the messaging is key. Our plans are really not in need of much deliberation. They're pretty simple. Community elevation projects, multidisciplinary, cross-disciplinary. So not everything is code. That's why the name change to Innovate for Vegas is a thing. As long as our future directors will align with our purpose, our stated and filed purpose, to enable and encourage ideation, innovation, and implementation to make our communities better, those communities do not necessarily need to be in Las Vegas. As I so often say, you can innovate for Vegas, you need not innovate in Vegas. So that is the local innovator question. Like I said, we're not really reaching out locally anymore. It doesn't seem as though there is a strong desire, or maybe there is simply a lack of familiarity with the notion of civic volunteerism and open source projects such as this. I understand from Sean that even when they first started, they started just before the downtown project commenced. The downtown project was something of a distraction, I think, so that happened, but he's from his recollections, there was never in the Vegas area a room full of 50 people. So even though our hackathon meetups have reached as high as about 15 people, we never really got much done. It was really more tire kicking, questions, expressed interest with no follow through, etc. These are intensely time expensive. So time spent on hackathons should not be spent sales pitching. It should be project speccing, discussing implementation strategies. What do we need to do? Do we need some language translation or creative work like icons or user interface or user experience direction, etc. So most of our hackathon meetups were trying to convince people to participate, with the question usually being, why isn't there more done already? So these are not people that we can spend a lot of time on. So we don't look for local innovators here. Now, as I said, we're reaching out to other people. Local innovation can happen where you are. You don't have to be in Las Vegas. So local innovation, the theory is you can look around you, see how you might make your communities better. So all of our projects are about community elevation. And projects that we have here, projects you have there, we can collaborate across borders, across great distances. And we can each take from that collaboration something that might benefit our pardon me, my voice is really fighting with me, projects that may benefit both of our multiple localities. So you can still be a local innovator. You don't necessarily have to work on your own local project, or you don't have to work only on those. And for our part, if you innovate for Vegas, we hope to reach out to as many as 40 million people visiting, maybe not all of them. According to the LVCVA, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, we're up certainly over 38 million, I think it is. So around 40 million people. It's a nice population to show and tell some community elevation projects. So ideally, if we have projects that are interesting to the casual visitor, the convention attendee, the concert goer, the Formula One fan, maybe they'll go back home after visiting our oasis in the desert. They'll say, "Whoa, I wish our city, town, county, whatever, I wish we had something like that going on here." And then they may discover, "Oh, we do. Oh, people here were part of that project that I experienced when I was in Las Vegas." So we view Las Vegas as a great opportunity to, you could say, a loose form of co-create, but certainly to, and in a post-pandemic era, I hesitate to use this word, but expose people to the wonders of civic volunteerism, open source, project development, the notion that people can do things to make their communities better, and then see what happens. If we take the local innovator mindset and we can spread it around and convince or otherwise encourage people in similar circumstance, again, without a room full of people, maybe you have 1, 2, 3, 5, but not 50. In a post Code for America brigade world, there may be some angst, some question about direction and method. So if there are people with similar concerns around the country, if we can gather those people together to collaborate across these boundaries, state, city, state, time zone boundaries, we can advance each other's causes, benefit from open source sharing, collaboration, and we can deploy ideas in different places. And again, we can deploy an idea from Iowa in Vegas so that people visiting Vegas, possibly from Iowa, but possibly from more likely, or not more likely, but very likely from a lot of places, say, "Hey, here's a project that we collaborated with, Open Des Moines," or whatever the organization is. So pretty straightforward. And we'll see if we can convince people to do that so that when our visitors return home, they will ask questions. Like, it'd be great if they said, "How can I get involved?" But it would be fine if they started with, "Is anyone here involved with this sort of thing?" Our website and this audio program need to go places. Our website was initially deployed a long time ago so that the IRS could take a glance, see that we're legitimate. Your website is part of your filing. It's part of your organization biography, right? Even when I submitted the letter to change our name, there's no form. It's really send a letter, include your EIN, your old organization name, your new organization name, the supporting documentation, which is our amendment to our articles for the state, and your website and phone number and etc. So we did all that. So our website has really been a sort of a placeholder. The idea was, first of all, we were going to pursue the forking, given the fact that people were not confident as non-coders that they were welcome. I would hear very often, "I'm not a coder, so Code for Vegas is not for me." So we had some discussions. So the innovateforvegas.org website would be, codeforvegas.org, and then eventually innovateforvegas.org website is sort of the business site for the nonprofit, but that we wanted to enable two sides of the same innovator coin So the code for and create for domains, both .vegas, were added to the mix. And the idea was the coders could code up some website magic, and the creators could make these sites look and act and interact in interesting ways, all the while showcasing, featuring, celebrating our civic volunteers. So the business in the back, the volunteerism in the front. We've had nearly zero interest in pursuing these, which makes it easier, actually. So those have expired, code for, create for. We now have simply .vegas. I talked about this in our episode from last week, so episode 54. The notion is we can now have code.for.vegas, create.for.vegas. We also have been toying around with volunteer.for.vegas, which is a volunteer project and participant platform to recognize and celebrate people who volunteer their time to elevate their communities. Doesn't have to be with us. It would be general being a positive force in our society. And the platform, the tools that we would develop would work anywhere. So you could innovate for Vegas, but you can take that project and use it in your town. So our implementation of this notion would be at volunteer.for.vegas, our celebration of project contributors at code.for.vegas, create.for.vegas. And there might be some other ideas in the mix. We also have our challengers.vegas portal, wherein we will focus more on those individuals who take part in challenges, the Congressional App Challenge, the NASA Space Apps Challenge, the Congressional Art Competition. Those are the only three I keep in my head. But there are always opportunities for people, individuals or teams, to participate in, possibly for prizes or other recognition, participate in these projects, challenges. The problem with the greater Vegas area is we are really awful at mentioning these things. First of all, notifying people that these challenges are even available to participate in. Second, that people are participating in them. And third, that there may have been, well, not only participants who quote unquote finished the challenge, but they may even have won or won something, right? Win, place, show, however that works. So recognizing those individuals and celebrating their accomplishments is part of a reasonably healthy entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. So we're wholeheartedly for that. Challenges are not our our projects. So our projects are ongoing. Challenges tend to be standalone with a due date. If there's a hackathon, it takes place, and then there's a project submission and you're done. Sometimes there are requirements as far as age. Some projects are aimed at students who are still as old as in high school, not intended for adults or professional hackathon participants. There are people who make money participating in hackathons. If there are cash prizes, it can be done. So the Challengers.Vegas platform is intended for extra organization challenges, not ours. So code.for.vegas, create.for.vegas would be about participants in our projects. Volunteer.for.vegas would be about people who volunteer their time for anything from Gobble Gobble Give in November to cleaning up the highway to or any roadways here. There's a lot of litter here, so your help would be wonderful. And you should be recognized for that. Maybe you volunteer for junior achievement. Maybe you volunteer for canned food drives. Right? It could be anything. So coordinating volunteer efforts and then recognizing the people who contribute their time and efforts in a way that is not fleeting as is social media. You can post a picture on Instagram of the people who volunteer to do something, and an hour from now, no one will ever know. It will be completely out of sight, out of mind, unless it comes up again 3 days later thanks to the algorithm. But bottom line, news feeds on social media are noisy and not the best way to celebrate people and their efforts. As well, this audio program needs more attention. You listening to this right now, I'm amazed that you found this program. Perhaps you listen on Spotify. Perhaps you found us on the Google podcast platform, maybe on Amazon. I really got to do the iTunes. Got to add that in there. We actually have a YouTube channel that we'll add because Google Podcasts is going away. They're going to switch to YouTube Music. There's a podcast feature. So we'll tack our feed onto a YouTube channel, considering adding some live streaming discussions, and we can make our hackathons into YouTube videos and post them. We can live stream them, have actual engagement we have our office hours on Thursdays, 6 p.m. Pacific time. So those are not recorded at present, but we could do an online stream, questions and answers and outreach. That will probably be more interesting once we deploy our first labs project. So we'll keep that on deck. But in the meantime, having people find this program and our projects in general and our efforts and our organization is not best accomplished with social media of today. We do have a LinkedIn page. We, for some reason, have 722 people following it as of today. We've gotten as high as 728, and then the next day, 6 people unfollowed. Then we got 2 more followers, and then 2 other people unfollowed. So we seem to be at 722 permanently, which is fine. Clark County is 2.3 million people, so our reach is definitely making it worthwhile to maintain and rely on a LinkedIn profile page for any sort of engagement with our communities. Not. So look for LinkedIn to be sort of second tier, deprecated, not going to post interesting or important things there. We'll stick with our website for the day-to-day, and then we'll get on to the next section here, which is social media then, now, and next. So the old social media platforms are great if you are into them. If you are a big giant Facebook fan, more power to you. Personally, I gave up on Facebook just over it'll be 3 years in the summer, so 2.5 plus years ago. So I don't want to deal with LinkedIn. I'm sorry, I don't want to, Freudian slip. I don't want to deal with Facebook. I don't want to see Facebook. If anything is happening only on Facebook, it should stay on Facebook. So more power to the Facebook diehards, I guess. So if you are a Facebook fan, great, more power to you, but no more. So we never had a Facebook profile page or whatever they call them now. We had a Twitter account that was never really going anywhere. We had an Instagram account, not worth it. So our Twitter account, we don't really use anymore. We do have a Mastodon account, fastodon.org. So it's a Mastodon server. We will be, and I'll get to this in another bullet item, but we will be launching our own. We have a Discord server that's more current. So the old school corporate billionaire class, we must control the world and sell all of your personally identifying information and usage data and so on. Those days, I hope, are behind us. The LinkedIn page, like I said, not really worthwhile. So it might hang on for a while longer, but not really posting to it, not relying on LinkedIn for engagement or sharing of anything of substance. Our Discord server has been largely silent since our NASA Space Apps Challenge participation in October 2023. So it's not going away, but it's certainly not a bastion of discussion. We have our office hours, which are taking place on an open source video conference platform called Jitsi. We have this audio program. So we can use more modern methods. And again, we do have the Fastodon account. We will soon, in the next take on social media, the future, as part of our Smart Social platform, there will be an Activity Pub platform component. So Mastodon server deployment. So we'll have that. Our information sharing platform will do things like timeline and geo and introspection, survey, and other important detail capture and share. Our open data capture platform will figure into this so that we can make use of open data, but also add open data so that others can also use that data. So our social media platform won't be social media so much as social data. You can ideally participate in sharing of current or in need of update information, anything from parking lots. Where are the parking lots? There's an open data set for that. but it's focused on the innovation district downtown, there are a lot of parking lots, right? Knowing where parking lots are is an interesting component of traffic, streets and traffic, how people move, where they end up. So parking lots are one thing. There are all manner of pieces of data in the open data sets that are maintained by the city of Las Vegas. Fun fact, that's where Code for Vegas got its start, in the open data platform implementation just over 10 years ago. So this platform exists. There's plenty of data in there, and we can make use of more of it. Then we can take that data and integrate it in to information sharing. So we can, data and information are related, but they're not the same thing. We'll get into that down the road as we roll this out. But if we have a way of sharing topical, correct information that is based on open data and other contributions of fact and possibly opinion, if we can start making use of data rather than those opinions more, rather than an anecdotal report of something, give me an incident link from the LVMPD open data website. Give me a location on a map. Give me a time frame. Give me an interval of time. Give me two points on a timeline. Let's connect incidents over here to incidents over there. Let's connect access to medical services to demographics. Let's connect transit routing to people who are in need of use of public transit, who may start, their point of origin may be in an underserved area where there's only one bus that runs every hour that they're able to make use of. Other parts of the greater Vegas area may have 10 buses that they can ride. So maybe route analysis and a little bit more proaction to gain information and insight about the public transit space a little bit more frequently than every 10 years. And that's just one example. So our Smart Social program, coupled with our MyMuni, which is a community or municipality. So MyMuni is about the interface to the Smart Social data and information and the open data capture platform. So now if we can wrap our ability to capture and make use of open data, and these are locations, their addresses, times, places, dates. The business license database will tell you how many business licenses are issued in the greater Vegas area and where they are. So if you can make use of that data with internet access, maybe there's a correlation. If you'd like to develop an application to measure accessibility or lack of in different parts of the greater Vegas area, you could maybe correlate accessibility with existing intersections, pedestrian and bicyclist risk areas before people are hit, before there are collisions and worse with vehicles, motor vehicles. So there's plenty of data out there. Our Smart Social and MyMuni platforms combined with open data and open data capture will ideally make for a more intelligent and useful information sharing environment, which is how you make a smart city smarter, in my opinion. So that's where we're driving. Every single thing we're working on, maybe not by name, although the My Vegas project was renamed to MyMuni to be more generic. But everything we're working on can be, could be, will be, ideally, applied to other places. So nothing we're doing is about, interfacing with the Southern Nevada Health District, or interfacing with the City of Las Vegas Business Licensing District, or interfacing with the Clark County Library System, right? You can develop projects that have those specifics in mind, but it really makes more sense to develop a tool that can work with a health department or a licensing division of a city or county or a library system, and then you specify Las Vegas or somewhere else. So if we develop with anywhere in mind rather than only here in mind, you can end up with collaborations that take place across localities, and ideally improvement for all cases, consideration of what is required to make a general implementation or a general framework for implementation in specific areas. So if we build something that, it doesn't work, your open transit project only works in case of the RTC, the Regional Transit Commission, configuration and availability of information, doesn't work in Oregon or doesn't work in Austin, in say Hillsboro, Oregon, Portland, maybe. It doesn't work in Austin. Maybe it does work in Manhattan, right? So if we can distill away the specific parts and make those separate components, we end up with a project that will work in most places, that can be adapted to most places. And then if everybody who's making use of it can feedback and add features and test things and so on, everybody wins. That's how open source works. Nothing new here. This is not the innovation part. The innovation is actually doing those things. That's the hard part. So yeah, our Smart Social project will be where we can start telling people about what we're working on. Wouldn't it be cool if you could find all of the content creators, influencers, podcasters, YouTubers, bloggers who are either in or are visiting the greater Vegas area to talk about or create relevant, interesting, or even only because they're here, content. Whether you want to follow a blogger who lives in Vegas but blogs about airplanes, but they are our favorite people. They're here in our oasis in the desert. So you may be curious about those things. Go find, if you will, all the YouTubers, all the influencers, all the Instagrammers, all the bloggers, all the tweeters or Xers or whatever they are. Go gather those people up and try to find them all. I actually maintain a list on my old Twitter account. I don't really use it anymore, but I have a local news list of news sources that use Twitter. And to this day, I have people following it every week. Somebody followed your local news link or local news, whatever it is, account. So gathering up these local resources can be made easier. So our Smart Social platform can do exactly that. And then we can publish using our MyMuni tools to create a reasonable user experience, whether it's a website or whether it's RSS feeds or what I hope will be the successor to RSS feeds, Open Schema or schema.org, marked up standard human readable HTML. But if we make those resources available, now you can share information that you own, the policies of Twitter and so on notwithstanding. But if you have a blog that you maintain, you own the content, we'll just post a link to it. So it's almost like a news feed, but we can actually capture the people, what they're working on, what they're talking about, make those things available. So that's one of the Smart Social ideas. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. Those are still on the table. But the point is, our projects will be community oriented, but not Vegas specific. So anyone anywhere should be able to do for their locality what we intend to do here. And again, when we expose 40 million people visiting town to some smart city projects, ideally they will say, that Vegas is pretty smart. I wonder if my place can be, we have a group here that are working on, contributors to the open transit project that I tried in Vegas include some people here in Oregon or here in Texas somewhere or here, wherever, right? So the idea is to increase awareness and increase participation, maximal elevation. So speaking of projects, I mentioned the 4.Vegas. I mentioned the MyMuni and Smart Social, the open data capture. We have our labs concept, which I introduced about 18 months ago. Here's the deal. We are a civic volunteer organization. I'm the managing director. I make the most money at zero. So we're all volunteers. We all contribute our time for the greater good, the long tail. But as I always tell people, I don't want you to work for free, but I do want you to be willing to work for free. That's what civic volunteerism is all about. You should motivate yourself from within, see what we come up with. The power of collaboration, of like minds. So as we develop our projects, we can deploy them on a for-profit arm's length entity. So we have our separate domain for our labs. So labs like Google Labs or other, there's been, Gmail was a Google Labs project many, 23 years ago. So if you started out with Gmail as I did when they were still in beta, you're trying it out, right? So we have projects that are viable. We can launch them in what we can call the Innovate for Vegas Labs, but we can launch them in such a way as we can generate revenue from advertising or from membership or subscriptions. We'll still have the Powered by Innovate for Vegas Foundation volunteers. We'll definitely give everyone credit for working on different project components. Ideally, project contributors will end up getting jobs. They'll have a nice portfolio of finished projects that people can try out. They'll have teamwork in their past, how to deploy a thing with fellow civic volunteers, possibly value for value in terms of the equivalent of a tip jar or other contributions from your interested and satisfied public or other. So the idea is to not take your contributions, but rather add them to the mix and hope that from those come some value for you. I know it sounds like I just reworded taking, but if you volunteer your time, it does have value, and the plan is to make sure that people who realize that value will also realize your value and be willing to contribute in some way. As well, once we have deployed projects and so on, it may be easier to ask for more donations, to have funding for hackathons that include food, since free food is a big motivator. So those are all on the table. But once we have our first project in lab state, ideally there will be an aha moment, and if our fellow civic volunteers from former brigades and similar cohorts around the country can see, oh, okay, I see. If we contribute from where we are to what you're doing there, tons of people will see our collective efforts, and we'll see where that goes. Once we have our first project, which will be the MyMuni Smart Social, and then eventually, probably soon after, the Open Data Capture platform, we can use Open Data today. We'd like to add more Open Data. So the capture will be aided if we have a way of reaching people. Today, in the greater Vegas area, if you would like the local press to talk about what you're working on, you either have to kill someone or steal something, build a stadium. We're not doing any of those. So we'll go ahead and build an entire platform dedicated to communicating with people about things like entrepreneurialism and innovation, indoor farming, hackathons, challenges, education. The list goes on and on. So, and then as more people see what we're working on, we can use those tools, or as we say in my industry, the technology industry, we can eat our own dog food. We'll make use of our own platform to promote our own projects, including the platform, and we'll build from there. A nice feedback loop. We're coming to the end. So we have now, as I mentioned at the top of the show, the question about hackathons and whether we should resume our monthly hackathon meetup, which was, to say it was poorly attended at the end there would be an understatement. So people were not interested in participating proactively, and eventually they just stopped coming in general. So there was really no point in spending the time. We did have a hackathon every month, the fourth Saturday and Sunday of the month, every month, sitting in the Innovation Center downtown, wondering if people would show up. It was a little tedious, so that went away. We can always do a virtual hackathon. Doing a hackathon in person is interesting, where there's plenty of dry erase boards and plenty of terrain on which to collaborate. The tools, the space, etc. So we can do that. We can do virtual hackathons anytime. If we are reaching out to our colleagues around the country, clearly a virtual hackathon on a regular recurring basis makes sense. Something else we tried to get across to people is that it is not essential to participate in one single monthly hackathon. Ideally, if you would like to work on projects, you can do it on your time. I couldn't make it to the hackathon should not equal I am not going to contribute to the project that I wanted to or committed to contributing to. So really we encourage people to, if it's yourself or you and 2 or 3 other people, find a day, find a time, find a coffee shop or a library or whatever, Innovation Center even, to meet up if you want, or do it online and work on some stuff, right? If we can advance the cause even a little bit at a time, we are not on a release schedule. We're not a startup with investors to worry about. So work on your project, work on the part of the project that you've committed to. We have our Agile for Volunteers structure, so 2-week intervals. Try to commit, try to update some user stories, try to develop a new project if you want. and we'll see where that goes. So there's really no reason to have a hackathon as the one time that people get together. But it is a good time. It's a good idea to have one time, a good time, to meet up, synchronize, share ideas. That is a great context for bringing in members of the community, members of our local governments or NGOs, anyone who is curious about what we're working on, thinking about getting involved, curious, angry, whatever. So a great time to engage in general, or to take advantage of the whiteboard, or to draw inspiration from those people who are curious or angry about something that needs to be done. The example I usually give is the beehive that I found near an elementary school one time. Completely and totally impossible to get someone to do anything about it. So why is that? Well, maybe we should make a habitat encroachment project where we keep track of where wild animals, wild birds, wild reptiles, wild insects, where are they? Are they presenting a danger? Can they be relocated, etc.? So if we are encroaching on habitats, and if the habitat encroachment is getting closer in, have you ever wondered why people are seeing more coyotes, more snakes, more scorpions? Scorpion on the strip, stinging your nethers. Be careful. So as these things are happening more and more, we should have a place where we can look and go, hey, look, there's more scorpions inside the gate, inside the wire. So all these things are doable if we have people that are willing to contribute some of their time on a consistent basis with respect for the time of others, so that your volunteer time doesn't get wasted by someone else pulling theirs. If you are volunteering your time and waiting for something from someone else who is allegedly volunteering their time, they decide to disappear without a trace, maybe your time is wasted too, and that cascades in an unpleasant outcome, which is usually nothing. That's not the way to advance a cause. So that is our spring cleaning. As we enter springtime, we really want to get our social information sharing platform. The name will be forthcoming. I have mentioned it before, but I don't want people to go right. The millions of you listening to this right now, I don't want you to /dot the website. But once we get that going, we will have a place where you can find not only this audio program, but the content, the podcast, audio programs, video, YouTuber, maybe Twitch, whatever ways we can link to people and collect the creative works of various people. And let's not even forget talks.vegas, which is, I just renewed the domain. We are going to renew our approach. We are not going to work with people who are disingenuous or deceptive. And that's where I'll leave that. But the people of the greater Vegas area who have a story to tell, to enlighten, entertain, and educate, should have a way to do that. And part of our information sharing platform will be highlighting those talks so that people can find them. So getting the word out takes many forms, and that is our first labs project that we intend to launch, and then we will cross our fingers and hope. And that's where I'll leave it. If you ever want to donate or be supportive in any way, anything from telling other people about what we're accomplishing or trying to accomplish, to participating yourself, to providing financial or other contributions on a tax-deductible basis, please seek advice from your tax preparation professional. This is not tax advice, but if you have t-shirts or other swag that might align with some of our challenge or hackathon efforts or other projects, or, well, anything's possible. If you have a venue and you'd like to participate as a hosting venue for our talks presentations, if you are a video content creator or producer and you'd be interested in helping with the talks content production, I don't want to use this term lightly, but think TED Talks. These are talks.vegas. We can set our own rules, do things our way. So yeah, reach out. Info at innovateforvegas.org, media at innovateforvegas.org, about media specific things. But general questions, info at innovateforvegas.org. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for putting up with my voice. My voice thanks you, but it is flipping me off right now. Take care.